It's a team sport. What I mean by team sport is dog and handler. So as a handler, you definitely have to do your job because through the training, that dog has become dependent on you in certain situations for you to do your job, point him in the right direction, give him the right cast, blow the whistle at the right time. There's a lot that dog is depending on the handler to do for them. And you get dogs trained to that skill set where they're running blind retrieves and they're handling and they're picking up poison birds and knowing off of one mark to go pick up another bird that might be crippled. And that dog is going to go off of what you're asking him to do. And if you're not asking the right things, you're not going to be successful. That's a training aspect. And from the competition standpoint, it's even more so. You got to stay focused on what your job is to make that dog successful, especially when you get into situations when things are that tight. You got to put a dog that close to a bird he's not supposed to pick up. You've got to be paying attention. I mean, the least little ear twitch can indicate that dog's thinking something else, so you got to be looking at it and know when to blow that whistle, stop him and say, no, we're going this way.
Reading the dog.
You've got to be able to read him. I'm looking for that potential. Right out the gate, if I see a really great natural ability to mark birds, see a bird thrown and go straight to it. If I see those dogs that are very driven but very compliant, man, I want to go get it, but not yet. I'm going to wait for you to tell me to. If I see those things in a young dog, yeah, I'm definitely pushing and see how far we can go.
Mossy Pond. Lee, welcome to the Eukanuba booth.
Awesome to be here, yeah.
Podcast studio.
Yeah, it is. Awesome to be here. Like I said earlier, I'm a little ADD, so there's a lot going on here today.
Yeah, it is.
A lot going on.
There's some distractions, so I'm going to try and keep your attention the best way I can.
Very good, very
why don't you
good.
Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell everybody where you're from and your kennel and what kind of operation you run.
So I'm Lee Howard. I am the manager of Mossy Pond Retrievers. We're down in southeast Georgia. Mossy Pond Retrievers trains any and every gun dog, from your pointing breeds, your flushing breeds, and your retrievers. Competitively, we are only on the retriever side competing, running AKC hunt test, HRC hunt test, and Super Retriever Series. We run the Grand, the HRC Grand. We run the Master National, and hopefully continue running the SRS Crown Championship, which we've been very successful in the last several years. So that's us from a training standpoint. Like I said, obedience, flushing dogs, pointing dogs, and retrievers.
Nice. Sounds like you need a hobby or something to take up some time. It doesn't sound like you have enough.
I don't. I probably, guaranteed to get off 3 or 4 days a year. Yeah, guaranteed.
The vacation time comes in good.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so you have your hands in all kinds of different pots here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of touched on a little bit of all of them over the years, with the exception of the Super Retriever Series. Yeah. And that's something that's really intriguing to me, being that, I don't come from that world typically, the labs and all that stuff, we touch on it, but we don't really dive too deep in on it. This has primarily been kind of a pointing upland, versatile kind of perspective, but I always love getting out because I think there's so much crossover between just dog training as dog training. So whether you're labs or versatiles, but I would say that kind of does not apply to the Super Retriever Series. I think that what you guys do is kind of in a league of its own, if you would say that's fair to say.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Dog training in general, no matter what breed, we are a small community, whether you're dealing pointing, flushing, or the retrieving side. So there are a lot of common things inside that world. Now, with the Super Retriever Series, yeah, I think it is a unique thing in and of itself. It is a retriever game, and it is not just a retriever game. It's it's an elite retriever game. These dogs they're good at everything. They're good at the field trials. They're good at hunting. They're good at the hunt test. It's an elite group of dogs that run the Super Retriever Series. They've got to be good at all the games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's high level, and then we can kind of go in as deep as we want. High level, like, what is the Super Retriever Series for those that are listening that never heard of it?
So the Super Retriever Series is a competition. It all started as the ESPN Outdoor Games, as part of the ESPN Outdoor Games. It is a retriever competition. You're there trying to win, and it plays in all aspects of the retriever game. So you have in the retriever world, you have different types of competitions. You've got field trials, you've got hunt tests, and then you got your gun dogs.
Mm-hmm.
The Super Retriever Series is unique because it throws all those aspects into one competition. There's field trial aspects, there's hunt test aspects, and then there's gun dog aspects from a hunting perspective that your dog's got to be good at and able to do. So that's what makes it unique is it does all aspects of the retriever competition world in one competition. Um, and you've got to be good at all of them
Yeah.
to be successful.
I mean, how did this come about? Some guys just wasn't challenged enough by each one or the other. Like they just wanted to take all three and throw them in a blender and see what came out.
Well, I think it's kind of evolved from my understanding, and I wasn't participating when it was in the outdoor games. But it was kind of that perspective. They wanted an elite competition that kind of threw everything in the mix and wanted to see all aspects of the training. And it's an event that is open to the public. It was televised as part of the outdoor games at ESPN. It's now live streamed. A good, especially the Crown Championship is a live stream and it comes on the Discovery Channel. So it is still a
Yeah,
televised
I think
event.
I saw it on the Amazon app or
It
something
is,
like
yep,
that. It's for
exactly.
streaming. If somebody
For
listening to this wanted
streaming.
to go find it, it's on one of the
Yeah,
streaming apps. I saw it
exactly.
somewhere and watched
It
it a
is.
couple of years ago.
It is. It is. So it's something that we wanted people that to see all aspects of the game and what retrievers can really do, and it pushes these retrievers to their limit. Not physically, but I'm just talking about to their training limits. I mean, the things we ask these dogs to do in a Super Retriever Series competitions are very difficult. They're very elite. It only not only takes a lot of natural ability, but there's a ton of training involved too. That these dogs have to be very well trained and very disciplined and very talented from a natural standpoint.
Essentially trying to reach the absolute full potential, getting every drop of talent out of that dog.
Exactly.
But also, in my opinion, and I'd like to get your perspective on if you think this is a fair assumption,
Yeah.
I would say, it just like it tests the dog to its full potential and capabilities.
Hmm.
I would say it's the same thing on the trainer and handler
Very much.
because from what I watch, and again,
Very
I've
much.
watched like just a couple times, so I know very little about it. Some of the stuff that the handler was doing, I'm like, I'm not even tracking with what he's supposed to be doing. Like, I don't even know what the end
Yeah.
goal here
Yeah.
is. And it seemed like so much of it was, I think dogs were, failing on some of the tasks
Hmm.
because the handler were,
Yeah.
errors.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you could probably apply that across the board to all dog games
You
to
can.
some extent. But
You can.
when you're talking about some of the tasks that you guys are trying to accomplish,
Hmm.
you guys have to have in sync the dog as well as the handler at a very high level.
Very much so. Yeah. You're 100% correct. When you get dogs at that level, that skill level, that training level, it's not, and you're running a Super Retriever season, even when you're hunting, dogs that are trained to that level, it's a team sport. And what I mean by team sport, it's dog and handler.
Right.
So as a handler, you definitely have to do your job because through the training, that dog has become dependent on you in certain situations for you to do your job, point him in the right direction, give him the right cast, you know, blow the whistle at the right time. So there's a lot that dog is depending on the handler to do for them. That if the handler is not on time and doesn't do their task, it is going to be a failing effort. So at that skill level, it is a lot of handler involvement with the success of the dog. And that's not just for the Super Retriever Series. That's in a hunting environment also. I mean, when you get dogs trained to that skill set where they're running blind retrieves and they're handling and they're picking up poison birds and knowing off of one mark to go pick up another bird that might be crippled. There's a lot involved from the handler standpoint, and that dog is going to go off of what you're asking him to do. And if you're not asking the right things,
Yeah.
you're not going to be successful.
If you're not phrasing that question in the
If you're
correct
not
format.
exactly, you're not going to be successful. So you're 100% correct that it is very handler involved, and the handler's got to be on the same page as the dog, and got to be doing the right things to be
Yeah.
successful.
Give us some of the examples of some of the trial, like some of the scenarios or sequences that we're doing, just so that people listening to this fully grasp just the challenges that you do. Like you threw out a number of terms, they're like poison birds and
Yes.
redirecting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So somebody listening to this again, if they're in the upland world or versatile
Mhm.
world, they may not even be familiar with that. So try and paint a picture for us on just the difficulty and challenges within some of these setups.
Okay, so in every competition, in every qualifying event in the Crown Championship, in every SRS competition, they're going to run different setups. Each series is going to be a different format. So when I say a field trial series, a field trial is typically the people throwing the birds are wearing white jackets. The handler's wearing a white jacket. The reason they're wearing white jackets is because you're stretching the distances on these retrieves. In a field trial series in the SRS, I mean, it would be nothing to see 3 to 4 birds thrown. The long one, the short one might be 175, 200 yards, and the long one might be 400. So the white jacket in those situations are simply to give the dog the opportunity to see where the bird's coming from. Um, and then from a handler standpoint, you're wearing white. So when the dog is 300, 400 yards from you,
They can see the
they
signal.
can see the signal. They can
Yeah.
see you. So in a field trial setup, you might have those 3 marks. So you got 3 marks in a blind to pick up. A blind retrieve being a bird that's already laying out there. The dog doesn't visually see the bird being thrown or anything. It's just out there. So they throw 3 marks. So you got one at 175, 220, and then 350. So in a SRS series, you might throw all 3 birds, 1, 2, 3. You might pick up one of them that you saw thrown, and then they might ask you to, all right, now pick up the blind retrieve. So the blind retrieve is the bird that you didn't see thrown. So now I've got to ask my dogs, all right, I know you saw this one, but we're not going to pick that one up. I need you to turn around. We're going to run this way and pick up this bird that you didn't see thrown. At that point in time, it's 100% communication between the handler and the dog. You got to line up. You got to go where I tell you to. If you're not on, the right line going straight to that bird, I'm going to blow the whistle. You're going to sit down. You're going to look at me. I'm going to give you a hand signal. You got to follow that hand signal to find the bird that I put you on. That's difficult enough in itself, but inside that Super Retriever series, these dogs are so talented. You don't. We are running these poison bird blinds right next to birds they see thrown. So,
Like how far apart are we talking?
you might run within 5 yards
5 yard that close?
of a bird that is laying there on the ground that the dog saw fall. So you might have to say, no, you can't pick that one up. I need you to run right beside it, but go pick up one that you didn't see thrown. So
I mean, just I'm trying to put
yeah,
myself in the shoes because I haven't been there, but
yeah,
like just my kind of short life and dealing with dogs is you
yeah,
do a mark over there. It doesn't even have to be 3 of them, right?
yeah,
But you can
yeah,
just throw one mark over there, and you have a blind completely over here, 50 yards to the right. A lot of dogs just want to be pulled over to the mark
exactly,
because
yeah,
they know that they have to trust you over here. So
exactly.
I can only imagine the difficulty of 5 yards.
Oh, it's well, yeah, whistling them right past it. That's why I say the communication aspect of it between dog and handler has got to be uh, really nothing short of almost perfect
Yeah.
to be successful in this. I mean, because you take a dog that sees something falls, and just like you said, you could throw the bird at 12 o'clock and then turn around at 4 o'clock, and it's still that dog is still thinking about that bird
Yep. Just naturally being pulled
naturally
that
being pulled
direction.
that
Yeah.
direction. So you put that in a very tight scenario where you're throwing at 11, running at 12. That dog sees that bird, smells that bird when he goes past it, but he's got to
Uh-huh.
turn all that off and say, all right, where you want me to go?
Right.
You don't want me to pick that one up, so where you want me to go?
Well,
So it's got to
and
be,
even that close together, I can see the handler forgetting the mark, right? Like me, as I'm coming
oh
up
yeah,
there, it's like I can easily see myself like, all right, mark one, mark two, mark three, got that. Then the blind's there. I'm like, all right, is that the blind or is that mark two? Right? I can't,
exactly. So you got to be as a handler, you got to be focused, 100% focused. That's what I tell my guys, my trainers. When you're training these dogs every day, never lose. When a dog's on the ground, don't lose focus. That's a training aspect, and from the competition standpoint, it's even more so. You got to stay focused 100% on what your job is to make that dog successful. Especially when you get in a situation when things are that tight.
Yeah.
And you got to put a dog, that close to a bird he's not supposed to pick up. You've got to be paying attention because the least little ear twitch can indicate that dog's thinking something else. So you got to be looking at it and know when to blow that whistle, stop him and say, no, we're going this way.
Reading the dog.
You've got to
It's
be able to read him.
amazing how, especially new people coming into this, they're
Oh,
like,
yeah,
what do I need to concentrate on? Like, spend as much time with your dog as possible so you can
exactly.
learn how to read the dog. And I think a
Exactly.
lot of people, they start looking at their dog like, what am I supposed to be looking for? And it's like that ear twitch,
Oh, yeah.
or I've heard some guys talk about left-handed versus right-handed dogs, and like even there was one old timer I was talking about. He's like, I could tell if my dog, if his tail was straight behind him or to the left or right, which way, almost like a rudder on a boat.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that that like those minute details will make or break. I mean, I'm not just talking
No,
about
exactly.
in the dogs, but it goes back to the handler to where like
Hmm.
a lot of people might turn their nose up at something like this. How difficult it sounds.
Hmm.
How kind
Hmm.
of let's be real. Like hunting wise, a lot of kind of
Hmm.
unrealistic scenarios.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
potentially happen, I guess, in a perfect world. But a lot
Yeah.
of these are like that's never freaking happening.
Exactly. It is.
But we're always trying to just challenge ourselves, right?
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
if you want to be the best and you want to see how far we can take this, like
Hmm.
there's some value into this to
A lot
where
of
all
value.
of those little minute details add up to be able to get to that extent. And so like all of the stuff that we preach and talk about, the foundation level, the genetics and the just basic obedience, all
Yep.
of that applies into it.
Yep.
But to me, like, you really have to be plugged into that dog mentally
Hmm.
more than anything to be able to even have a shot at something like this.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, the small things is what, like I said, not only puts you successful in the competition, but in the hunting world. I mean, you're hunting with a retriever. Say you're in a field and it's got some cover in it. I'm running a blind retrieve. Well, if I know which way my dog sits when I blow the whistle, does he turn left to sit? Does he turn right to sit?
Yeah,
If I know that, and I know there's cover down this left side or this right side, and I know he turns right, well, I'm not going to blow the whistle because he's going to sit down. He's going to make that spin and sit in the cover. He can't see me. I can't see him. I'm going to have to make some unnecessary movements to be successful on the retrieve. But if I know, he turns left, I can blow that whistle right away, put him back in line, and make that retrieve quicker. Um, if I know, from a hunting perspective, if my dog has a certain indicator when he sees a bird versus when he doesn't see one fall. One dog that I run for several years in the SRS, every bird that was thrown, I could tell you whether or not he saw it or not, but he didn't make a big movement. He simply licked his lips. If he licked his lips, he saw that bird.
yep,
When he come back in, like when I sent him to go pick one up, when he come back in, if I asked him where his next mark was and he licked his lips, I knew he was
he's got it.
confident he knew where it was at. If he come back in and I asked him where his mark was and he didn't lick those lips, he sort of just sat there. Well, I knew I was going to have to work a little bit and help him.
Mm,
Um, I got one that I currently run right now. If we're running whether she's running a blind or a mark, you were talking about a tail earlier. If her tail ever starts kind of going in a circle, she's uncertain about something.
mm,
If I'm running a blind retrieve, that's my trigger. All right, I need to start handling her because she's getting uncertain. Uncertainty with this dog turns into hunting, and so she'll turn you off a little bit and kind of start ignoring you a little more. So
she
if
starts getting loose.
if I'm running a blind retrieve with her and I see that tail make a loop, I'm blowing the whistle. I'm getting her back under control because she's fixing to get loose. Those little things, you as a handler, to be successful, in my opinion, hunting or competing, you need to know, and that just takes time.
Yeah, we talk in our world, recognizing when the wheels are about to come off, anticipating that, not reacting it to where,
Yeah,
even in testing, sometimes it's best to just take it on the chin, give them a good stern correction, get the get the train back on the tracks,
exactly, exactly.
and make it count. Because us as owners, like, I've spoken to a lot of people after they test, within NAVD or what, it doesn't matter, fill
Hmm.
in the blanks, and they come back and like, I knew that the wheels were coming on. I'm like, well,
Make an adjustment.
why didn't you make an adjustment then? Well, I didn't want to get docked. I'm like, yeah, but you had like 25 other minutes in the field. Like, that one little, make an
Yeah,
adjustment, get the mind recalibrated. But it also, it goes back again. you have to put in the time and the reps to recognize these patterns and those
Yeah.
changes of behaviors. What it is, those COBs, and you just don't do that by going out once a week. This is
No.
an
It's every day.
everyday. Talk to me about the level of dedication and training regiment that it takes to get a dog up to that skill level.
Up to that skill level, it starts first you've got to have a good base. I mean, your basics, your obedience, your force fetch, collar conditioning, all those things have got to be solid. You've got to have a good base. I mean, I don't care if that's retriever training, bird dogs. I mean, the
Foundations are the
foundation is the
foundations.
most important. I mean, if those few commands they learned for that foundation aren't as solid as they can possibly be, there's no use in going forward, because you're going to run into something eventually that's going to be a disaster that you're going to have to back up and fix.
Right.
So the foundation is the big part. But once you get them through the foundation, you get through what we call transition, where the dogs are running your blind retrieves and they're picking up marks and multiple marks and stuff like that. I always compare it to sharpening a knife. So you get a knife, it's dull. You get a rough rock, then you get a one that's a little smoother, then you get a smooth rock, and then you get a strap, right?
Yeah.
So these dogs in the Super Retriever series, I mean, they're on that strap, and you're putting a razor edge on them. And to do that, not only is it's time, but it's really focused training. You can't just go out there and throw birds and run blinds. It's got to be, everything you do has got to have some intention behind it. Every mark that you throw has got to have something that the dog's got to think about, something that's going to affect that dog to pick up that bird. Every blind you run has got to have some kind of, we call it factors. You got to have some kind of factor, whether it's a big crosswind, whether it's a body of water, whether it's a patch of cover, whether it's another bird. There's got to be some factor involved to make that dog think,
Hmm.
and to make that communication even stronger between handler and dog.
Yeah.
So to do that, and that's not something you do, like you said, once a week, twice a week. That's a every day, 2 to 3 times a day training
Situation.
sessions that these dogs need to be put in. And you can't take any training session lightly. You got to be that focused in your training to get that dog to that level. Like I said, every bird they picked up, every mark, every blind, it's got to be intentional. There's got to be something going on for that dog to learn, that dog to get a correction, for that dog to get better.
And I think it's hard, especially, it's hard for some people to recognize that you can't just set up a specific scenario,
Hmm.
run through it, repetition, 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 just drill it to death over and over and over again to where your dog can't fail on it,
Yeah,
and then go do a test or series such as this, because there's so many different concepts that can happen, different
exactly.
scenarios, different. There's a keyhole over here, there's an obstruction over here, an
Yeah.
objective over there, pond over here. Like every
Hmm.
time it's a completely different thing. So when we talk concepts, it's more or less you're getting the dog to understand
Hmm.
what an actual poison bird is,
Exactly.
or it's like you have to be able to. You can't set up every field station
Yeah.
beforehand and practice it. And I think
No.
that's what a lot of people. I call it assembly line training, right?
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
people just want to set up what they know that they're going to run on a test. And especially depending on which world you're in, so many people are like, I have to go train on the test grounds before we go test,
Yeah.
as just because they think that that's going to help the dog. And it's like, if you go back to the foundations and you drill this and you teach the dog, the dog learns how to think through these situations,
Yeah.
then you can go into new foreign novel areas
Exactly.
and expect the same results and behaviors from the dog.
Exactly. And in the Super Retriever series, one of the things that I always like about it is I don't know what I'm going to get when I go. You go to a hunt test or you go to something like that, you're going to get a land series in an AKC master test. You're going to have a land series, a land triple and a blind, a water series with a double or a triple and a blind or two blinds. And then you're going to have another water series or a land water series. So you know what's coming. And that SRS, you don't know.
It says
This is,
it's like they just draw random cards
it's
almost.
just like, yeah, whatever that judge wants to throw at you, they can throw it at you. And I mean, you don't know when you pull up that for that first series, you don't know if you're going to be running a a field trial setup where your long mark might be 450 yards, or if you're going to be running a hunt test setup that they're throwing 5 marks and you've got to pick up 2 blinds before you pick up a mark. You don't know what you're going to get. You make it to the third or fourth series, you might be running out of a ground force blind, or you might be running out of a duck blind, or out of a boat or a dog stand. You don't know what you're going to get. And that was what always, one of the things I always liked about it, because from a training perspective, you couldn't just go train on this.
Yeah.
You had to spread it out. You had to have your dogs
I'm sure it keeps things or
ready.
keeps things fresh.
Oh yeah.
And the monotony of training. I mean, let's
Oh,
face
it makes training fun.
it's.
It
I
makes it
mean,
really fun.
there are certain things, and I haven't even been in this world for very long. I haven't touched that many dogs, and there are certain things that I'm like, all right, this is going to be boring. Like I in the NAVD world, I hate duck search training. Like you
Yeah.
send them and then you sit there and
You
wait.
wait.
You're staring at the clock, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It gets so old, and the monotony,
Hmm.
and it's hard to go out there and the dogs pick up on your enthusiasm and your
Oh
motivation because
yeah,
you're
yeah,
not really into it. They're not going to be into it.
exactly.
And so something like this, always keeping it fresh, always keeping it challenging.
Yeah.
How important is it to where? Actually, let's back up, and I'll get to that question here in a
Yeah.
minute. Let's back up. When you're trying to pick up the candidate, right? Can just any lab with decent genetics from a field trial world be competitive in this, or are you just kind of testing the waters in HRC and AKC? And if you start seeing that potential in them, it's like, all right, this might be one that I really kind of really strap down and put to the test for this SRS, or are you really starting with every puppy with the intention of trying to do the SRS?
Uh, for us, every dog that comes in that wants to run any type of test or any type of gun dog stuff, um, I'm looking for that potential, and I'm pushing for that potential. The 6 and 7 month old puppies that are coming in being dropped off on us. Right out the gate, if I see a really great natural ability to mark birds, see a bird thrown and go straight to it, those dogs, they catch my eye. If I see those dogs that are very driven but very compliant, you know, man, I want to go get it, but not yet. I'm gonna wait for you to tell me to. The compliancy and the teamwork effort, teamwork mentality from the dog's perspective catches my eye a lot, because in that SRS, it's a team sport. I mean, the dog's got to do his part. You got to do your part, and so the dog's got to be compliant, and they got to be willing to work with you to be that success. So there's things that I look for when I see that in a dog. Then that's the key to say, all right, let's push this and see what they're really capable of, and really push them and see how far we can go. Um, they've got to have a lot of natural ability. I mean, that's any of the SRS dogs you see running, they're naturally talented dogs. Um, but at the same time, they've got to have that team mentality also, where they'll work with you
Yeah.
um, and be a team player. So if I see those things in a young dog, yeah, I'm definitely pushing.
You're looking for that
I'm
Ferrari with
looking.
cruise control,
You
essentially.
dang right. Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
would you say that the average person, like, that just wants a hunt dog, or maybe just wants to break into HRC or any of the games that we mentioned, you get into some high level testing and lines, and I would say that some of those dogs may not be the right fit for a new handler or somebody
Mhm.
just starting out. Maybe it's just out of their control or
Mhm.
wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Would you say, like SRS, you get a good SRS dog and proven line that goes through that system? Is it within the realm of possibility for a new handler to get involved and still within their skill level be able to manage and do it, or will it be that Ferrari that's just too much too much power for them?
No, you can get the new handlers can get involved. I mean, the big thing, there is a learning curve. I don't care how experienced as a handler you are. When you jump into the SRS game, there is a learning curve, because it is handled. You handle different in that game versus any other retriever aspects. Definitely, more different than the hunt test and field trials. You handle different in the SRS, because it is very handler, dependent. So there is a learning curve. So for a new handler to come in, it is difficult, very difficult. You've got to be willing to learn. You got to be willing to adjust. You've got to have some good base knowledge too. I mean, you're not just going to jump into it without having a good understanding of dog work and at least one of the aspects of the game, whether it's the field trial or the hunt test. So you have to have some base knowledge, but um, it is something that a new guy can get into, new person can get into, and have a lot of fun, especially if they're competitive, especially if they like making themselves better, making their dogs better. It's a great game because it's going to push you as a handler. It's going to push your dog. Um, as a competitor, it's going to push you as a, from a training regimen standpoint. I think it's a lot of fun for new people to get into it and not just kind of see where they measure up, but also see what the potential is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest holdback for a lot of people is I don't think people understand their potential or that dog's potential. There's a lot of dogs out there that are capable of competing and being competitive in that game, but their owners and their trainers don't know it because they don't understand the potential that's there. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely.
That's what
Well, if they're not around it, how would they know?
exactly, and that's what if they've never seen it and don't, they won't know.
Yeah. So, in a lot of games, especially when you start, you have like entry level tests or trials, and then it's like every tier, it's by attrition, people are going to fall off, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
and so like when you get to the top of the pyramid, so to speak, you only have a core group of people primarily playing those games. So when we're talking SRS, how much of it is just the old guard? How much of it is the same trainers competing against each other? How much new blood is coming into it? Do you get to see maybe a new handler, new trainer in the series every year? Or is it just like it really takes a while to break into that high level?
We see new ones every year. On the amateur side, I think it's more so than on the pro side.
Okay.
Seems like there's a lot of new amateurs coming into the game and coming into the sport, and I attribute that to amateurs becoming more involved in the training and wanting to get better. So I think that's awesome that we are seeing more amateurs, and we see more pros getting involved too. Um, One thing, like I was saying earlier, if you step into this game, there's a lot of us that have been playing it for quite a while, and we're good at it. Um, we know how to, I'm not going to say manipulate the game, but we know how to play the game. And that gives us an advantage, experience. I mean, experience in anything you do gives you an advantage. So a lot of people, I've seen it several times, new pros, new amateurs come in and they run an event or two and they get their tail kicked.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, man, I can't do this. And they kind of
They quit
they
before they
quit
even
before
really
they even
started
give
getting good.
themselves the opportunity. Because there's a big learning curve. There's a big learning curve on how to handle at a SRS event, and it takes some events. And now um, I've seen some come in, run an event or two, and be successful, and keep on rocking and rolling. But you're going to have some bumps and bruises, and it's a difficult game to get into from a competitive standpoint because there is a good base. There's a core group of guys that run this event, and they're good on the amateur side. On the pro side, I mean, they're good. They have good dogs. They're good handlers, and they're hard to beat. Um, I mean, Carter Turner that works for us at Mossy Pond, he is hard to beat. He's good. He's really good. And if you go to an event with him, you're going to have to beat him. And if you've never run it before,
It's gonna be tough.
that's a tough ask.
So now he works under you at Mossy Pond.
Yeah,
Do you guys compete against each other?
we do.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, we do. Carter and Monday through Thursday, we're working together, trying to make each other better.
Friday through
Friday
Sunday.
through Sunday,
Throwing grenades at each other.
we're throwing grenades, man. We're throwing grenades. No, Carter's kind of stepping into that role. He's going to be he's our main competition guy now.
Okay.
I'm falling back into a more of a managerial kind of overseeing everything
The
event.
OG
So
role.
yeah, so I'm stepping back just a little bit and overseeing everything. Spend a little more time at the kennel and a little more time at home. Um, but yeah, no, we still compete against each other. And yeah, I want to beat him just as bad as I want to beat anybody, and he definitely wants to beat me. And so it makes it fun. Monday,
Yeah.
it makes it fun training wise also, and it pushes both of us. And
Yeah. I
So,
always say, I mean, if you want to get better, you got to find somebody that pushes you,
oh
and
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, I like training with people that know more than me.
oh
I
yeah,
just that are better at me, that are more proven and more experienced, because it's just you get thrown in there. It's like I'm not afraid to look like an idiot,
yeah,
right? Like to
exactly. And
me,
that's the biggest thing I think with a lot of people is, I don't, whether it's pride, whether it's being a man, I don't know what you want to call it, but there's a lot of people out there that don't want to get involved in the game simply because they don't want to be put themselves in that situation.
it's it comes down to ego, like so
Yeah,
much
ego,
other
exactly,
stuff in life. You know, it's just it's like what's the big deal? You look like an idiot one day. You know, it's like
exactly.
you got to recognize what you don't know. You got to recognize what you can do better
Yeah.
to improve, and all that stuff. I mean, that's just basic life stuff. But
Hmm.
always it, I hate when I'm the smartest person in the room. I
Oh
hate it.
yeah,
You're not getting any better,
yeah,
like
exactly,
regardless of whatever room you're in life. And
exactly.
so I'm always trying to be around people such as yourself, to where I can
Hmm.
steal y'all's cheat codes and go from there. But let's go back to building the SRS
Yeah,
dog.
yeah,
We talked about we have to throw so many concepts at them, to
yeah,
where we need the dog that can think for itself while
exactly,
also go with you.
exactly.
How important is it to, in your day-to-day training, change things up while staying consistent? What I mean by that, like,
Yeah,
you can change location, you can change
exactly.
number of reps, you can change presentation. There's a lot of things we can
Yes.
change. But also, when we're working on a specific concept that we're hoping that dog to figure out, we
Yeah,
do need that high level of reps. So
yeah.
what is the best advice you can give for balancing doing things enough while not doing things too much, or keeping it fresh enough to where the dog is really actually learning and getting smarter?
Exactly. So, and that depends on the concept you're working on, is a big factor. And it depends on where at in the learning curve you are. Uh, take the poison bird example. For a poison bird, when the concept is understood with that dog that you're running poison bird blind, and they understand that when you say no bird, or when you say no, or when you say dead bird, that we're doing something. We're running the blind. When that concept is completely understood, um, then you've got to start mixing it up tremendously. You can teach that process through pattern, through repetition and pattern. We teach it in the very beginning through drill setting, where you're getting rep after rep after rep after rep after rep, building that communication. But after the communication is built and there's some understanding going on, then you've got to change it up. If you don't change it up, then that communication is only going to work in that situation. So it's got to be changed up on a daily basis. And through the training process, when you run into a situation that you have a big hiccup, that's where you repeat. That's where you get the more reps in that situation, and then you move on. So you've got to read it dog by dog, as far as how much time do you spend in a certain spot, and that's all. That's dog dependent. So from a standpoint of changing it up, we have several different properties that we train on. Um, I don't like to be in the same place day to day to day,
Yeah.
because it does become pattern. It does become, situational from the dog perspective. Um, so you do want to change that up if the opportunity arises. If not, you got to get creative. You got to start thinking outside the box. So changing up day to day is important. Changing up your scenarios day to day is important. But also at the same time, when you run into a situation where you were struggling through a situation, you need to repeat that and keep hit it over and over and over again until you're comfortable there, and then move forward. So it's very dog dependent on, I guess, how many reps in certain situations you need to get. Some dogs are good at one thing better than they are another. Always work on what you're not good at. If you got a dog that's a great blind running dog, but he struggles in a marking situation, or he struggles on water, well, you got to do a little more focus on your water training. Um, a lot of people get stuck in being able to see their dog do something good,
Right.
you know, and does that dog learning through success? He is some, but if you're not challenging and pushing him, you're not going to be successful in those other areas, and you're essentially not getting any better overall. So You've got to work on your weaknesses, no matter what they are, whether it's water, land, blinds, multiples, whatever it might be. So, and that is dog to dog. You can't. There's no cookie cutter
Yeah.
uh, method to training a dog. Our Super Retriever Series dogs, our hunt test dogs, our gun dogs, there's no cookie cutter method. That's dog dependent. You've got to adjust to each dog individually.
As it should be too, because
Yes,
again, it goes
yes.
back to we would get bored with it. If every dog was the same and every process was the same, it's an assembly line,
I
and
wouldn't have
there's
a
no
job.
challenge with
Yeah,
this. It's you wouldn't need pro
I
trainers. It's
wouldn't.
like
I wouldn't have a job.
there would be a step-by-step manual, and that's what so many
Exactly.
people like. They're always asking, "Hey, can you write down the steps? Like, what's the method? What's the roadmap?" I'm like,
Yeah,
there
exactly.
isn't one. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
general one,
Yeah,
but
exactly. There is a general.
yeah,
There is a general, but they're not a computer program. You can't go in there and start typing
yeah,
it up and it work out. So that's got to be adjusted. And that's the same thing with these our SRS dogs. We've got some that we work on certain issues a lot more than we work on other issues. So you've got to be dependent. I mean, it's got to be dog dependent on what you're doing and the scenarios and the setups, and that makes training more difficult. Um, Even from a time management standpoint,
well, that
because
you hit on exactly where I was sitting and thinking in my head was I've never owned a lab or a retriever or done this high level of training with them, but I've assisted guys in the field just wanting to learn, arming
yeah,
wingers and all that fun
yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Uh, it seems like when you get into that high level stuff, you're talking especially like when you start adding distance to some of
Hmm.
these drills. If you have six dogs on the line, then it's inefficient to change that scenario and setup up for six different dogs. But then here we are saying every dog is different and we're trying to do something different with every dog, especially if you're trying to do something as high level as SRS.
Exactly.
So how, I mean, are you guys really setting up, running a dog through this? Maybe you got two or three on the line at the same spot. Do there two or three. Okay, go break down, set up a whole brand new thing to train these two or three, because that's the challenging part that I see these lab guys. I'm like, man, I'm a pretty dedicated guy. I'm not lazy at all, but at the
Yeah,
same time, I'm like, I can see how that really gets old really fast.
that's what's that's what separates us. That's why we've had the success we've had, because we will do that.
So
I
you will
mean,
you will set
I
up,
will
run a
set up.
dog,
I will
break down, and set up
set up.
another one.
I will set up. Run 3 or 4 dogs. And most every setup you do, inside of that setup, I can adjust. Which direction a bird thrown is thrown. Which bird you throw first versus which bird you run last. So you can make adjustments within a setup to work different things.
Yeah.
So you could set up one setup and throw the birds in a different order, throw one way versus throwing it the other. You can make those adjustments in one setup and not have to completely move and still get some work done. But yes, if I have a dog with an issue that I'm really focusing on, um, I will set up something specifically for him. Um, is it time consuming? Yes. Is it worth it? 100%.
Yeah. I talk I
100%.
talk all the time, especially in the upland side, like spending half an hour doing a specific setup for that dog to learn on this one rep
Yeah,
is much more valuable than taking 5 minutes and just throwing shit at the wall and
exactly.
seeing what comes out of it, because it's you don't have any control over that. There's no intention. Back to your point, you have to
Exactly.
have an intention on this. So when you're creating your training plan, are you up like the night before, like say we wrap up the dogs, we ran the dogs, you go sit down, are you mapping out exactly what you're wanting to do the next day so you can just wake up and get at it in the morning? Or are you just kind of like going out there and looking at the field and like, all right, I think I want this, and that?
So I know pretty much at the end of the day, I know what I'm going to do tomorrow, based off of what I did today, and what my dogs did today. Say I went and I run a setup and there was some cover involved, and my dogs struggled hitting the cover where they were supposed to, or um, you know, a certain bird gave them a fit. Well, tomorrow I'm going to set something up based around that what I saw the day before, and I'm going to work on it a little more. Um, so yeah, I have a good idea at the end of the day what needs to be done the next day. Um, if I had a day where I run through a few setups and everybody did pretty good, we'll say, well, you know what, tomorrow I got a challenge a little harder. So I'm gonna put something together that's gonna be a little more difficult, maybe a little more challenging, and make an adjustment that way. But yeah, pretty much every day I know what I'm gonna be doing. At the end of the day, I know what I'm gonna do tomorrow, based off of what I saw today.
Right. Well, business wise, because I mean, at the end of the day, what we're talking about is that there's a lot of time and money
Yep.
invested in these dogs. I mean, to get these
Yes.
dogs built up to that. So, there has to be a return on this stuff. Somebody
Yes.
listening to this, whether somebody's like, man, this sounds pretty intriguing. Maybe the challenge is appealing to them and they want to get into it. Or maybe somebody's listening to this like, maybe I want to own a dog that, I ship the dog out to
Yeah.
Mossy Pond and get them to do that.
Yeah.
What kind of investment are we looking at? Like what age classification are these dogs usually competing at a high level on there? And then is the return there? Like if you find success in this series, is that kind of a make or break thing for a kennel? Market
Mm.
wise, like kind of compare it and contrast it to like what most people are probably used to in regards to AKC or HRC or something.
So in the Super Retriever Series, I mean, it is a money event. You do win. I mean, first, second, and third does get a check. If you have the dog, have the talent, everything, you can win money back. Um, it is becoming successful. Uh, People are starting to like and see that SRS title on these dogs and that ability to compete at that level. So from a breeding standpoint, they're getting more and more valuable from that standpoint. So there is a good bit of return from that perspective. Um, you know, you win enough,
You'll do it.
you'll pay for the training. So um, there is some returning, and I see that return getting better
Okay. The more
from
popular it
a
gets, of
breeding
course.
standpoint, because it's becoming more popular.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, has you as a trainer and kennel owner and breeder, has competing at this high of a level diminished the fulfillment of the other games, right? Like, not to belittle what those other games are. I mean, they are what they are. They've been around forever. But, like, are
Yeah.
you competing in that, man? Like, oh, man, we're
Yes.
just building to the SRS.
No. Man, even at an AKC or HRC hunt test, my mentality, and it's always been this way, is even though it's a pass or a fail, I know whether or not I did better than you did. You know what I mean?
You're just built that you have that
That's how I
competitive
see
gene.
it. That's
Yeah.
how Carter sees it. That's how my other trainers see it. And man, if I go to an AKC hunt test and say I run 10 dogs and I pass 8 or 9 of them at the master level, uh, that was a great weekend. We had a good weekend. 80, 90% pass rate. That's great. But man, I saw 2 dogs there that absolutely killed it. I didn't really kill it. And that bothers me.
Eats you.
That eats me, and that eats Carter. So, no, whether it's the HRC hunt test, the AKC hunt test, any of it, I still see it from a competitive standpoint, and I want to be better than you. Carter wants to be better. I mean, we want to be better than you.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to get more passes than you do. I want my dogs to not only get more passes, but I want them to look better doing it. So I still see it as a from a competitive standpoint, and still push to be the absolute best in those games too. And it's and, you've got to look at it that way, from
Right.
in my opinion. If not, then you're not going to be successful.
Yeah.
And that's what it boils down to.
And this might be kind of a trivial question based on what you're saying, because to compete at that high of a level, you kind of have to have that competitive drive, and so
Oh,
not a lot of
absolutely.
people have that
Yeah.
bone in their body. Something that's kind of prevented me, or at least has had me hesitate to enter the competition side of the dog world,
Yeah.
was I do have that competitive bone in my body, right? And I didn't want to mix what I enjoy kind of as an escape in life. I didn't want to
Yeah.
mix that with that competitive drive, but here I find myself, I've barely dipped my toes into the competition side of things, like
Yeah.
barely, and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
But part of it kind of scares me, like, all right, I can see me kind of going off the deep end here, and it all. How do you do this without it becoming all about the ribbons, all about the awards, to where you do maintain some sort of enjoyment and fun level with that dog? And you might be sitting here like, hey, if you're gonna do it, it's not about the fun. It's about the winning. I don't, that's fair to say if that's what you want to say.
That's really it, to be honest. I love to win.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to be the best. I like being good at something. That's what's driven me all these years is being good. I want to be good. I want to not just in my eyes. I want people to look at me and say he's good.
Yeah.
Um, that's what drives me. That's what drives us at Mossy Pond is we want to be good. So I think the competitiveness and for me it makes it more enjoyable. You know what I mean?
Success is fun.
Success is fun, and that's what drives me every day is to have fun and be successful. Um,
I think that's
it puts a little more pressure on us
I think it's
every
it's
day,
hard
but
for some people to relate to that to where like just have fun. I'm like, yeah, but being good is fun, right? Like that's enjoyable, right? And
I got an 11-year-old boy and a 5-year-old boy, and my 11-year-old's been playing baseball. He plays baseball. He loves baseball, and one thing I always tell him is, I want you to have fun. I want you to have fun. I want you to have fun. And my wife gets on to me because every now and then I throw this in there, but hey, winning's fun.
yeah, winning is a lot more fun than losing.
Winning is fun, you know. Uh, I, I always make, you always hear the statement, you can't win them all. I really aggravated my wife one day, and I carry this mentality in life, and I carry this mentality in dog training, in baseball, whatever it might be. There's not a rule anywhere written that says you can't win them all. There's
Yeah.
not against the rules to win them all. And that's the mentality I carry every day from a working standpoint. I mean, that's what I work to win them all. I want my son to practice to win them all. I want my guys at the kennel to work every day to win them all. I mean, will we? No, we won't win them all. But if you work with that mentality that you're going to be good at it. And it is fun. I mean, even from a gun dog perspective, when an owner comes in and you and him work that dog and that dog does an amazing job, you won. You won that client's approval. You won his satisfaction. And that's fun. That's fun to see. Um, so I look at everything as a win-lose situation.
Yeah.
Whether it's talking about a gun dog or talking about the Super Retriever series, it's success is fun.
Yeah. I mean, just that competitive drive. And I mean, again, you have to have that drive to do anything in life
Yeah,
at a high level. You have to have
exactly.
some kind of drive. And anybody is just, I'm just going to have fun. It's like, yeah, we all want to have fun. But if you just come at it from like, I just want to have fun, then you know, you're probably not going to be at the top level of whatever it is that you're doing in that regard. But
Exactly.
that might be fine for some people. Some people just they enjoy just being a part of it and
Yeah, yeah,
participating. Other people they have to win. Other people they have no desire to even compete, right?
exactly.
And
Yeah,
and so it's just like there's some different elements that bring everybody in here, and there's a place for everybody in it. But
yeah,
when you talks about the people that find success, longevity
yeah,
wise, especially,
yeah.
it's like what drives you? It's like to be the best,
Exactly.
and that's why they're recognized for being, like you said, at least good, if not the best.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what inside that Super Retriever Series world, everybody you meet, everybody you run against and compete against, that's their mentality. I mean, we're all friendly.
You'll shake
We'll
hands,
shake hands and we all get along,
say good luck,
but we
but
want to beat each other.
yeah,
We all know it, so it's not like anybody's. We're not. There's no bad blood anywhere, but that's the mentality you're in. And I think being in that group of people drives it even harder.
hmm
Um, so it's
sitting at the winner's table is a little different, right? Like the
yeah,
conversation's
exactly,
different.
exactly.
It's like, yeah, so many people want to go to these events and they
Yeah,
want to go
exactly.
break bread and have drinks and
Yeah,
talk about whatever it is in life. Other people, they want to leave the event, go to dinner and break bread, but all they're talking about is how to get
how
better.
to get better.
How to get better. They're
Exactly.
talking about that. And those are the tables that whatever activity it is that you want to do,
Yeah.
that's the table you want to be at is the table that everybody's trying to figure out how to get
How to
better.
get exactly. I hadn't played golf in 15 years. And the reason I don't play golf anymore at all is because I don't have the time to play every day and be good at it.
Yeah.
And that's why I quit playing.
Yeah.
When I got to a point in life where I couldn't do it on a daily basis and be good, I don't want. I can't, I don't, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go. I can't go out there and have fun and shoot a 95. That's not
Right.
fun. You know what I mean?
You're gonna remember the 5 shanks into the
I can't
in the
do it.
water.
So that's but to do it every day, yeah, to
And it,
be
it's
successful.
again, it's just tough. I've said it on the podcast before, and I've caught some flack from some people for saying it, but I'll say it again. It's like even if this is just a hobby, that doesn't mean you have to suck at it.
No,
And
exactly.
and that's kind of what's driven me to learn as much as possible. I haven't figured out exactly like which avenue I'm wanting to
Yeah,
go down, and it might just be a general. I just want to be the best dog trainer I can be, right? But
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
still some form of best,
exactly,
right?
exactly. You want
Like
to
a
be good at
personal
what
best
you're
is
doing.
still trying to be the best.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
so I mean, I know we kind of went into some crazy life rabbit holes here on this topic,
Yeah.
but one thing that I do on here is as we wrap this up is I ask everybody what's something I should have asked you that I didn't.
Oh wow. Uh, I don't know. That's a tough question. That's a tough question to answer. What did you not ask me that you didn't? Um, man, you put me on a spot. You put me on a
You
spot
can take
bad.
your time. You can go any direction on this. You know, out of all the years that you've been competing in this, just like off the cuff, what's the best advice you could give somebody?
So the best advice I can give somebody, and it's advice I give people every day, um, from a dog training perspective. Take the time to learn your dog. Get back to the Super Retriever Series conversation and the team aspect of it. You can't be a team if you don't know your teammate. Um, whether it's the Super Retriever Series, whether it is hunting, whether it is playing frisbee in the backyard, if you don't know your teammate, you're not going to be able to do whatever it is you want to do. Take the time to spend the time with your dog. Dogs are not the old school way of looking at dogs as being a tool. Uh, I think is 100% wrong. Um, dogs are companions. Dogs are family. I don't care what level that dog is at, whether it's a basic general obedience dog or gun dog to the highest end Super Retriever Series crown champion. Um, take the time to spend with that dog, get to know that dog. It's just going to make you a better teammate. It's going to make y'all better. It's going to make a better family member, and it's going to make an overall better experience with you and that dog. So take the time to get to know those dogs, spend time with them, make them a part of the family. The dogs we run the competitions and the Super Retriever Series, I know those dogs like the back of my hand, and it's not because I have to be good. It's because I want to, because it makes me better as a person. I think to know those dogs. I love dogs. That's what got me started training dogs. I love dogs and I love spending time with them, and I see them now as family members, not just the tools. Um, so the advice I give to people that are dog owners is spend time with the dog. Spend time with them. Make them a part of the family. Every minute you spend with them is just making you and him better, or you and her better. Um, spend time with them. Don't just put them in the kennel and pull them out when it's time to use them. Take the time, spend time with them.
I like it. I love it. There's no. I don't think we can wrap it up any better than that. Lee,
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
absolutely, man.
Uh,
I enjoyed it.
Anybody that wants to get to know Lee or where a little bit more about Mossy Pond, check out the links in the show notes down below, and I'll have all of them there. But Lee, I enjoyed it, man. It was a lot
Thank
of fun
you.
exploring the SRS, and
Absolutely, I enjoyed it, man. Thank you
yeah,
very
good,
much.
good luck on the next one. Hopefully I can see you on some streaming episodes here soon.
I hope so too. Yeah, cheers on hard.
Yeah. All right.
Appreciate it, man.